Hello and welcome. These are horse racing selections for Wednesday, the 25th of June. I am flatcapcallum and I'm hoping you are all very, very well. Alright, let's get the week started. No fancy pants festivals to distract us this week, just the humdrum of normal stuff. So, Kempton and Naas is where I am having a crack at. Three horses for Wednesday to start the channel week. One Naas, two Kempton, all handicapped horses. So it's an each way Trixie with additional singles. I'm going to do the quick review of Saturday, which is the last time I did the video. I've not been, no videos for 3 days, but yeah, there's nothing, that was partly I needed a rest from Ascot because it was a lot of graft in terms of, nothing to show for it either, but a lot of graft and the racing's not been great, is it? So Wednesday was quite good in the sense of, I've said it recently as well, but I like it when you go through, and I came out with three horses, and that was it, and they're all backable. Three horses is what I've got. I did have a good look at the Carlisle meeting because there's a couple of really interesting handicaps in terms of, for a midweek type fixture, but nothing for me on there. I'm sticking with three. I've got three horses. It's all I'm backing. It's all I've used for the channel. There's no other stuff I'm doing on Wednesday. These three. That's it. They're not worldies, but they're all fine. Between 10 and 16 to 1. So the review to finish last week, which was, as we all know, pretty terrible. They were awful. Something like second last and last or something. It was pretty bad, and they weren't much better either. So this was an absolute cruddy bet. So that was down. With the main pattern, Dynamite ran a really nice race. It's one of those ones. The jockey it looked inexperienced in the straight. She just didn't seem to quite give it as much urgency. I think it could have been good enough to win, but it didn't. It wasn't given enough encouragement. It didn't look to me. So Dynamite, it was a nice second, albeit. I think 22's I think the SP. The Dream, Stone last, absolute winner. And Dwindling Funds, I think it was also Stone last or near about Stone last. So one good and two absolute shockers on that one. So we got a couple of quid back, and that was it. So I think it was a £11 investment, and we got back. Escapes me. Is it £2.30? £2.30, I think it was. So I think it was a loss of £8.20. I think that's something like that. It's all in the description, right? It's in the description. I think last week the total was we lost £76. Got absolutely done in last week. Outside of Cheltenham weeks, the heaviest loss we've had since 2022 on the channel in 1 week. So not really much way of looking at it other than it was just a really, really bad week. And obviously the context was that we'd had a good last couple of months. We'd had a good April. May wasn't good, and now I've put myself in a bit of a hole for June. So I've got about 5 or 6 days to see if we can do anything to stop ourselves going back to back loss months, which would not be ideal. I mean, the total amount lost for the month, we've had lots worse months than the total we're on now. Again, all of those are in the history of the channel in the description. So last 3 days I've been doing soul searching. It's to go deep and meaningful. Doing what I do when I've had a bad week. Go back to the data. And what does the data tell you? The safety in numbers, right? There's lots of variations of meanings of that sentence, but safety in numbers. Just gone back and looked at how can I tighten up what I'm doing for the channel. There's a bit of a conflict, and I'll come to that in a second. But what I've tried to do is tighten up what I've done on the channel, because when you start going through the motions for a while, which I do on the channel, and I don't mean like I've been putting out loads of terrible selections that I'm not happy with. It's called variance. It goes well sometimes, and other times it goes not in your favour. there's a bit there where maybe there's some selections that have snuck in that maybe shouldn't have done. So I've looked at all the criteria and just made very, very, very tiny tweaks on a few things that I think have just got a little bit lax in terms of my selection criteria. And I've also looked at the staking plans. So, example bet would be Wednesday. Probably the last few weeks I'll just put it out as a each way pattern because it's easier. It's 50p difference. But when I've actually worked out what the staking plan should be, it comes out at £6.50 because two of the horses I should only be backing on the nose, not each way. And so it's little bits like that. So I think overall there probably will be you wouldn't notice, but probably a very minor reduction in overall stake. And there's probably a chance there might be a couple of horses that wouldn't have got in otherwise. So would not get in now that would have got in. There's a little bit of that. I've also spent time going back through all the Royal Ascot results and just to sort of see what I can put together, what I can learn. So it's really good practice to go back through the results and look at, okay, how would I have picked the horse that won those races? And some of them I'm less bothered about, like the 2-year-old races and things, but from open company handicaps and sort of the Group 1, Group 2 type stuff that, for some of the 3-year-old stuff, but generally, 3 upwards, look at, okay, was that some sort of freak result because the race seemed to have a really strong bias on that particular race on that part of the track? Or was it to do with pace, where there was complete pace collapse? Or generally, is there a way where I would have used my system to pick that horse? So I've kind of been going back and doing that and trying to work out what you can learn. And it is really helpful thing to do that most people do overlook. Go back and look at, okay, when there's been a big meeting, how could you have done better? And to be fair, even when I've had a good one, I might go back and do the same thing. It's always about what you can learn to take forward. So there's your little bit of a ramble. I'll give you the bet, and I was going to mention one other thing. So about high variance, because there was a very interesting video made by another channel, which I'm going to reference. Okay, I've done the review. Right, here's the bet. Here's my 3 for Wednesday to start the week. 540 Naas, American in Paris. Very inconsistent profile. On a very lowly mark. I think it's off a mark of 40, might be actually technically racing off 42. So very much in the ilk of Dynamite. It's not the age of Dynamite, but in the sort of sense of it's super low handicap mark, and a lot of races it'd have to run off like a 45 at least. So it's running off a very, very low rating. But it has actually, in this season, I think 2 out of 4 races, both at Fairy House over 6 furlongs, it's actually ran framed off that sort of mark. And last season, 2 of its better runs, I would say, were over Naas over 5 furlongs. So the drop back in distance doesn't worry me. And Robert Weirty's riding, which of some of the jockeys that have written it, he would be one of my preferable ones for this horse. So yeah, there's not loads of kind of value in the price at 10s, but I think it was worth playing. So American in Paris is in the 540 at Naas. 6 o'clock Kempton Marchetti. It's an interesting filly. There's a bit of inconsistency to the profile, but actually runs Kempton pretty well. And in the 2 fillies handicaps, framed in both off slightly higher marks. So I think handicapped to run a reasonable race, just chucks in the odd bad run really. I felt like Machetti's worth having a go. And then 8 o'clock Kempton, Lessay, Kieran Fallon's on. He's in good form. Last time it looked pretty good. First time out for the season. Off the back of the last time it ran the previous season wasn't so good. So if you kind of take those 2 runs out and look at the rest of the form for last year, it looks pretty well handicapped, and seems fairly versatile, I think, off memory, over both 1 mile and 7 furlongs at Kempton. It cut in through the line, and those are my 3 for the day. So it's a 50p each way Trixie, so that's each way doubles and trebles. 75p win singles, American in Paris and Lessay. So they are win singles, 75p. 50p each way single on a Marchetti, 650 is the total. Sky are best. That less A race, Sky and Paddy are both 4 places, so that makes them preferable, and it's one of those races. Sky is better than everyone else as well. So Sky come out best, then Paddy, and then it's the sort of Betfred's 365, Betways, Unibet, Ball Sports, the usual thing I've talked about on here recently, where the less preferable bookies are your Ladbrokes and your Hills and your 888s and that kind of stuff. So 650, that's the bet. And then the other thing I was just going to mention was about high variance, and some of you I'm sure will have seen this. There's a channel called Bookie Bashing, not to get mixed up with other YouTube channels that have the word bash or bashing in related to racing. So Bookie Bashing, I'll try and put the link in the description of the video. It's not something I normally do, but I think it was a really educational video. And the point of what they were kind of going through there is they've got their own website and data and stuff you can access and pay for and whatever, but there's data in they're using their data and basically sort of saying someone's kind of come to them and said, well, if all of your bets are value, but I'm betting them, but if I'm putting them all in lucky 15s rather than singles, I'm basically losing money. And they were sort of theorising what this looked like, and they've got some really clever graphs and stuff on there. The gist of kind of what they're saying is that even if you're betting on value horses, and I believe that is what I'm trying to do, whether or not anyone believes me, I know some of you do, that basically it is a really good illustration that even over a significant period of time, 1 year plus, you could have a terrible run, but in the long run you could be up. And there's something to be said for having the right mentality. And I've said this all along, I will lose on more days than I win, and I'll lose on more days than most people do. But I'm trying to win in the long term. The channel's winning in the long term. We are not winning this year, and we struggled last year. And this is, I alluded to this actually coincidentally before this video came out, about high variance and about turnover. And kind of one of the things on the videos they're talking about is if you can turn over greater volume, then the period between wins is likely to be shorter. And what I've done in the last couple of years on the channel, certainly since kind of the first year, and I'm turning over less. I'm putting out less selections and less bets, and therefore the frequency between winning, really good winning bets, is greater in terms of the amount of days, not necessarily in terms of the frequency in between bets. But it was regular on here for me to be putting out 3, 4, 5 bets most days, and now I'm putting out 1 bet most days if I have a bet, and then on a busy day it might be 2 or 3. So my turnover in terms of bets and overall stake is massively reduced, which does mean that we are finding there are longer gaps in between decent bets. So for my own data, I don't think suddenly like it's all gone to rubbishness. I think I had a terrible Ascot. I think that absolutely happened. And at the moment we're on back-to-back bad months, which isn't good, but it's not completely unusual either. Whereas when I was turning over higher amounts of bets, I was more likely to win on months. Now, all that being said, the game's harder and all that kind of stuff and whatnot, and there seems to be definitely some tomfoolery happening in the betting market. But yeah, I'd suggest if you've not watched it and you've got a foundation level of knowledge with the data, it's really worth watching, because it's a very useful video to kind of explain the point. Even if you're on the right horses, by playing kind of, well, they're talking about lucky 15s, so 4 horse multiple bets, which we do a lot in here, the length of time of between bets of winning can be really, really long. And therefore what I do is not for everybody. I have got a constitution for it. This is how I've bet for a long time, and I'm all right with it. Not everybody who follows this channel is, and we've lost a few by the wayside as we've gone, and that's perfectly understandable. And there'll be more like that, because I don't know when I'll suddenly have a great day or a great week or whatever it might be. So yeah, and it's interesting because I mentioned about turnover and stuff before, and one of the things I've been thinking about when I've done tweaks is around, I'm gonna unless it's by real exception, drop 5-horse bets, because that only compounds the level of high variance when you're betting on. Because in order to land something on a 5-horse bet, you really need, sometimes 3 is just break even places, 4 for a win. Yeah, you could get 2 winners on there, but ultimately I'm playing for the place joiner uppers, and the win part is extra. So yeah, going forward, when I've got a 5-horse day, I'll be doing it in slightly more complicated variations of bets, where I might be playing 2 Yankees with a bit of a lean, that type of stuff. So some of you will appreciate that and some of you won't. The other thing that it helps to do, and again, they actually mentioned this in the video, and I've mentioned this on here before, is sometimes, I have to be careful what I say, sometimes you want to make sure that you're not as obvious and overt with what you're doing, and sometimes the way you might do that is put on multiple types of bets with smaller stakes, because the radar is less likely to pick you up, unless you're, if you're being really, really obvious with the types of bets that you're placing. So yeah, I'm apologise if that's cryptic for some. Most of you will get that, I think, if you follow the channel. So anyway, I'll try and put a link into it, but if I can't do that, which hopefully I can, Bookie Bashing website. Yeah, really interesting video, and it's all about losing on lucky 15s. So yeah, have a watch. All right, that's me. I was not intending for it to be as long tonight because it's late and I've got an early start, but there you go. All right, outlook for the week. We'll see how we get on. There's nothing getting too jazzy exciting, to be honest. The weekend is Northumberland Plates. That's always a nice, interesting handicap to try our luck at. Thursday, let's bang average. We'll see how we go. All right, that's me. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.